Hello and welcome to the Scooter Pod's College World Series preview. I'm your host, Bobby Howard, and guys, look, I'm just gonna get this started off. I haven't been watching a ton of college basketball, baseball this year. Did I say? I hope I did say college basketball to open it up. That's how little I know about this. But honestly, in these moments where you don't really know that much about a sport, sometimes you just kind of need to call on a friend. So thankfully, I do have a friend who knows quite a bit about college baseball, and let's bring him on. Yep. Sailing in on these salty seas. It's Blake. Boatin Blake is back here to talk some college baseball. Now, Blake, you and I have, going to TCU and everything. Obviously, college baseball, bigger deal down there. But you and I have definitely partaked in our fair share of college baseball. Big 12 tournaments back when they were in OKC were just the best. So, no person better to get primed for the College World Series on this podcast than you. So welcome onto the show. How's it going?
It's going great. It's good to be back. I haven't been able to talk on the pod in a while since, I guess, college basketball. So we're back in talking a little bit baseball. Ultimate sickos maneuver for OU to finally win the Big 12 tournament while not in Oklahoma City. Me and Bobby were such loyal viewers of that tournament. We went to so many different sessions. We would wait out the rain delays. We would do everything. Early morning games, late night games. But I'm happy to see that OU has made a good run this year, got the bats hot at a late time, and now we're getting one of their first trips to Omaha since in like the last decade or so.
Yeah, first trip since 2010 for the Sooners, and it's crazy because, and I'm really happy that our season didn't just amount to a sickos Big 12 championship run where we lost on the final day for the regular season and then made a tournament run that I couldn't see because I don't live in the town of the city anymore, or the town of the tournament anymore. So that would have been really a bummer. But this Omaha run has been just super fun to watch. And, it's been nice because, a lot of the guys who made an impact last year, Jimmy Crooks and Kendall Pettis, and guys we saw last year are doing well. So it's pretty cool, especially now that they're not getting pounded by OSU and Texas and, Baylor. Our Big 12 runs were miserable with OU. I had never seen them won a tournament game.
I feel like they would win maybe like the 11 a.m. game while you're at work to stay in it just to have to play later that night and get smoked. They could just never they would put you in a spot where you could go watch the game and then would just lose.
Yeah, just to set me up for failure. And then meanwhile, your TCU Horned Frogs would always go on a run. OSU would go on a run, and I have to sit there and just kind of be bummed out while my team would sit packing in day two. But that's not the case there in the World Series. I, for one, am very pumped about it. Not going this weekend, but if this miracle run extends into next week, hey, I got them requests in, so that could be pretty fun. So let me just kind of get started about it. College World Series, obviously a big deal overall, but I think maybe some of our listeners might not get the appeal of Omaha, might not get the appeal of the event. Blake, to you, what is the College World Series, and what is that event to you?
I just think it's an incredible display of baseball in a format that I think is really successful and allows for, I think you get the good things maybe about college football where the good teams usually can prevail, that there's always going to be those top 5 teams that are making deep runs into Omaha, just like you see in the NCAA tournament, but then you also get kind of those scrappy underdogs. You get OU ended up being ranked, but you get the Ole Misses of the world that honestly had miserable seasons, but just get hot at the end of the season. They go into these regionals and super regionals, and with a double elimination tournament, anything can happen. You could just, especially those super regional ones, we see the best teams lose series all the time during the season, and that series determines basically how they're going to finish. What you really want at the end of the year is those championship runs. So I think for the people that love the chaos of March Madness, it's a great tournament. but also for the people that love to see the powerhouses. They love to see those teams that really excel during the regular season make deep runs. You're also going to see a little bit of that, so you'll get a good blend.
Yeah, and I mean, speaking of chaos, probably the best team in college baseball season, not in Omaha, the number one ranked, number one seeded Tennessee Volunteers fell flat on their face in the Super Regional, which they hosted against Notre Dame, who is in OU's bracket. Blake, I know you follow college basketball or baseball pretty well. What was it? Were you stunned to see the Vols trip up?
Absolutely. This team, for people that haven't watched, this team was insane this year. That I can't remember the record off the top of my head, but they lost single-digit games, which in college baseball, they lost 9 games. 9 games, and I think that's even including their what they lost during the tournament. Like, that run is insane. Their top 3 pitchers are going to be 3 of the pitchers in the rotation for Team USA. Like, they had all the offense that you need, all the defense, the pitching, everything. They had the easiest shot that, like, whenever you were looking at betting on the tournament, you weren't touching anybody on Tennessee's side of the bracket because they were probably just going to win it all. But it's been like a 25 year streak where the number one seeded team going into the tournament just never wins it. And that streak retains because Tennessee just went home packing versus a Notre Dame squad. Good, like a really good pitching squad, but just kind of the bats got hot in a 3-game span and sent them packing.
I mean, it's crazy, and like you were saying, I think that's kind of the appeal of this. Is it's not like some of the years in college basketball we've seen where it's a bunch of chalky 1 seeds. And especially not like college football where it's usually like Alabama and Georgia and you coin flip to see who does well. So I love to see it. And, especially as an OU fan who Tennessee would have been in our bracket if they would have won. So having Notre Dame instead, who's still pretty good, pretty cheeky, but not having to deal with the powerhouse in there is great. So for the purposes of this preview, I'd like to kind of key in on the teams in OU's bracket, which are Notre Dame, Texas A&M, and obviously the Sooners. Now, if you're familiar with the Women's College World Series format, this ain't anything like it. You stay in your bracket all the way through until you reach the final. So OU won't be having to deal with Arkansas, Oregon State, or, I guess Stanford and the final spot, Auburn.
Ole Miss, Auburn.
Or yeah. Ole Miss and Auburn. Yeah, Stanford got through, but Oregon State did get bounced, didn't they? Yeah, to Auburn, right?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, the color schemes mixed me up. Yeah, I like Auburn a lot because of their first baseman. That guy is awesome.
God, I was so mad. I took out one future this year on the Spooky Beavers because how I love my Spooky Beavers. And looking at this field, it's basically like all my enemies. Like let's just call your group the Texas, OU, Notre Dame, and Texas A&M just the axis of evil. It's like people that I'm like directly have to deal with usually during college football season. Like Texas A&M, OU the obvious. Notre Dame's just that huge national brand that you can go basically anywhere and you're gonna find some annoying Notre Dame fan and you put them all in one group and it's miserable, but this group is incredible. Like it's gonna be incredible watching. All these teams I think are very solid, and it's like kind of sad because I wish that they could have spread these teams out because I could see a lot of them, like every single one of these, easily winding up in the College World Series, but I think the weaker side of the bracket over there is safe. They'll allow these 4 teams to beat up on each other.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be an absolute dogfight. Obviously, Texas A&M has been great under their new manager, which I know you are pretty fuming about. Texas is the most successful team and probably just in terms of College World Series appearances. They've made it more than they've missed it in the 75 years. As in, there have been more College World Series with Texas than without them. So that is a juggernaut. Notre Dame being Notre Dame and all that. So let's dive in on it then. So we kind of touched on the Irish a little bit. Let's start off with them. So they're kind of they're probably the scrappiest dog of maybe not of the bunch, but they've taken down Goliath. That's David right there. do you think they're a team that's kind of run out of steam, or do you think they'll have a pretty good run here, especially going up against Texas?
Yeah, so Notre Dame, I think, has the potential to go pretty deep. And it's not because of their offense. Their offense, if you look at their numbers all season long, they've been very middle of the pack, like close, like not in the top 50 in your major offensive categories. But what you do get is the best staff ERA in the entire field. They have the best pitching, top to bottom, including bullpen, and that's going to get you far in a tournament where you're playing multiple days. If you lose, you're going to have to keep on playing. You need a deep pitching staff. So whenever I'm looking at who's going to advance deep into Omaha, I'm going to look probably give a little bit more weight to pitching than like say like your power hitting, just because Omaha is a big field. The wind usually is blowing into the stadium, so it's really hard to hit home runs and have that consistent power if you're like a power hitting team. So I think Texas is by far the better team compared to Notre Dame, but if the bats stay hot like they did against Tennessee, they knocked around three of the best pitchers in America, and they just continue their pitching staff pitching the way they are, like they could make a deep run even if they lose the first game to Texas. So
Yeah. So between them and Texas, obviously a team we've seen like quite a bit of as Big 12 fans. They've been kind of up and down. Eastern Carolina gave them a bit of a scare in their super regional, and as we've seen, they're a team that has just kind of, I don't know, they've been interesting this season, but they made it to Omaha, and at the end of the day, that's kind of what matters for them. Do you think the Horns have enough to really make a run out of this group? So what will be the key for Texas going forward?
yeah, looking at the field, I think even though maybe the end of the season rankings didn't have them very high, I think they're the favorite to win Omaha. They're by far the most well-rounded team. They lead the entire fielding in basically every major offensive category. They have best scoring, batting average, slugging, home runs compared to any of these teams. Ivan Melendez is a must-watch. Like this man, the tournament brought him down a little bit, but coming in to the region he was hitting over 400, hit more than 30 home runs this season. The home run he had against Eastern Carolina, you didn't even see like fall down. Like it just crossed the street behind the stadium. That's how insane it was. It just went into the forest and disappeared. And also, they have good pitching. Like their pitching's not as good as Notre Dame's, but they still have a top 25 ERA when it comes to their staff. And if you look at it too, they have the best fielding in the World Series. So they really don't have like a single glaring weakness. And I know they struggled against Eastern Carolina, and that was I think a very hard place to play. The Eastern Carolina fans really came out and were making their life hell, especially like I love Eastern Carolina Stadium with those those low walls that they can just stand right there, basically heckle players. Like
they're just on top of you.
Yes, like it's just like you're basically eye to eye with these guys in the outfield, and I love that. But I think Texas is the odds-on favorite to win. Like they just are so well rounded that they have to at least make it kind of like to like the semifinal area. And if they don't, that's a very disappointing run, in my opinion.
Well, that's probably the worst thing I probably could have heard today. But I appreciate I appreciate the takes. I'm now scared because here's the thing. I just keep thinking of how we let them back in our regular season series in Arlington. How I kind of feel like we blew that, and then we beat their ass in the Big 12 championship 8-1, with Melendez having his the single just solo shot home run. And so I think mentally as an OU fan who is also kind of dumb and doesn't really know about the scope of college baseball, I'm just like, oh yeah, it's Texas, it's whatever. But I am now scared, like pretty damn scared of Texas after that review.
Yeah, they are just too well rounded that I would just be shocked if like they just got bounced in two games. Like that would be if I was a Texas fan, I would be very disappointed if that happened.
Okay. Wow. Okay. Dang. Well, yeah, that's going to be interesting to see how they fare in that bracket. Personally, I'm tired of playing Texas in big level games. With the Women's College World Series, and I think women's tennis lost to them in a national title. Golf, they're always there, and I'm tired of it. But let's move on to the other side of the Lone Star State with Texas A&M. and your old pal Jim Schlossnagel, is that how you pronounce it?
Yep.
So they did you dirty by putting TCU in the College Station regional. Frogs obviously didn't make it out of it, but they made it decently far. So obviously, lots of experience watching TCU versus A&M as well. What does A&M do well, and what is this team like? And obviously, you said Texas was probably the favorite to get out of this regional, or not regional, but bracket. I don't know, just what's your scouting report on the Aggies?
Yeah, so the Aggies are a weird team. Like honestly, they were rated really highly. Like they got like a 4 or 5 seed, national seed. But like if you look at kind of like how well like just like the makeup of their team, they're really not like the best made up. So if you look at their offense, they're very similar to OU, and I would say that they're very disciplined at the plate. So it's like they're not swinging at random pitches. They're getting a lot of walks. They're getting on base a lot, but they don't really. Besides that, they don't really have anything off the page. Like they're an all right, just like hitting for average, all right power numbers. They really just don't like. They just get guys on bags and just are able to score via just like little blooper singles and maybe like a home run here or there, but there's not like a consistent generator on that side. And then they're pitching also too. It's like they're very similar to offense. I think they're top 75 in ERA. Nothing special. Like their pitching staff is just all right. They're like good at not like they don't put players on bags by walks, so it's like that honestly helps because like college. The good thing about college baseball is it's not like the MLB where you're just trying to hit home runs. Basically, like teams love to get on base, be able to work the bags via steals. Like that's a big part of the college game, and so being able to limit that, like that, obviously gets you a huge edge up, but they are one of the worst fielding teams. Like they commit so many errors, like, and that's really weird because like Schlossnagel's team at TCU weren't really like that, but it's his first year and he hasn't gotten his players yet. But like I think they're 169th in the nation at fielding, so they're like committing errors like no other. So kind of surprised they made it this far, honestly. But they did have, I would say, favorable matchups going through the regionals and super regionals. And that's how they ended up here. So I don't say there's nothing off the page that like just is so dominant that I think OU will struggle with. They're just kind of like, they're just all right. Like they're just all right, but they're winning. They're winning when it matters.
Fair enough, fair enough. And A&M is not a bad baseball school, but I believe they haven't won a College World Series game since 1993, which honestly pretty wild considering that OU has a national championship in baseball prior or like more recent than that. So, but history doesn't do much once you get on that damn field. Rosenblatt's gone. It's a new ball game, quite literally. So speaking of the Sooners, what an incredible run. I didn't see it coming quite like this. Kind of got screwed by not getting a regional, but they battled back against Florida in a really weird rain delay game. Obviously go to number 4 Virginia Tech, who had been really hot all season, and take them out in emphatic fashion. So what is this OU team to you? Like, were you stunned to see them make the run that they did?
I wasn't stunned in Gainesville. Like, I had them coming out of that one. I thought Florida was a very weak national seed. I thought OU was, like, it should have been kind of flip-flopped. It should have been OU hosting that regional. So I was like, that one I thought was fairly easy. But I was very surprised what they did in Blacksburg against Virginia Tech. That park is meant to hit a lot of home runs, generate power. That's what Virginia Tech does. And OU really, like, all year long, like they're not a power hitting team. They like to get walks. They're top 10 in walks. They get on base and then they steal bases. They are top 10 in stealing bags. Like they just grab them. And what was so shocking was it just felt like in Blacksburg, it just their offense completely just flipped a switch where it was lights out. And then there's a lot of talk. I know you probably did it on the pod earlier this week, but Jake Bennett, like he's a fantastic ace, and I knew going into Blacksburg Plattsburgh, it was going to be he was going to win them at least game one. I knew like he's just been that guy. And but then I was a little shaky about OU's other pitching staff, but they held it together. Like they're not, I wouldn't say like they're not a good pitching team. Like if you look all year long, it's like they don't even get into the top 100 ERA, which is so wild going into Omaha. Like you need some pitching, but they strung it together when it mattered the most, and they have an ace that I feel like gives them a really good chance to at least win against A&M if they pick. I'm assuming they're going to pitch in Jake Bennett that game, just in case and just in case like you want to pitch your best guys in the beginning. You want to get wins as quick as possible. It's harder to string together those few wins to keep like to not lose that final game than string together wins. So just I think OU does stand a good chance of beating Texas A&M that first game. Just like Jake Bennett's just a dude. Like he's just a dude. Like he's incredible.
He is absolutely a dude, and it's going to be interesting because I feel like this OU baseball team is, they go as their pitching goes, and the difference from the start of the season where they're losing to Northeastern State, in home games, to now where they're in Omaha. It's the pitching, and it starts with Jake Bennett, obviously just been a solid, reliable ace the whole way, but the arrival of Cade Horton has really just rounded out that pitching staff and really just made it. I mean, you have two legitimate, like just stone cold killers, on the mound. So if OU can get hot, if Jake Bennett takes care of business in game one, then you get a rest day, then that second game on Sunday, bring out maybe even try to bring out Horton and try to go for the jugular and hope that you can get Bennett back for any elimination games in the semifinals. I don't know. I think you can really make a run here. I obviously don't. I'm a bit of, like I've said, a bit of a baseball illiterate, but I think Bennett and Horton, if they take care of business, get some rest in there, I think you can really, really, really make a run, especially if the bats stay as hot as they have been. Tanner Treadway's been really good. Fielding's been great on the part of Kendall Pettis. He's been absolutely insane. And they've just kind of found ways to have clutch hits when they need to have them. Obviously, Peyton Graham has been a killer, just incredibly, incredibly good. Blake Robertson as well. I'm just spitting out names at this point, but this OU lineup is they ain't OU softball. There's no Jocelyn Allo out there, but they can get it done offensively if the pitching just holds up the way it has been the past couple weeks.
Yeah, and I hope OU, like I know they won the conference tournament. They were second or third in the conference just via tiebreakers or however that came out. And a lot of teams get like these base stealing teams because TCU was kind of one of those for the longest time. It's like they get conservative in Omaha because there's like a lot more on the line, but I just think OU should treat this as like keep on playing their type of game. Try like stealing bags is risky, but it's gotten you to this point. Continue to do that. Like, don't worry about like just kind of like freezing in the moment because like you're too afraid of the odds of stealing bases and stuff. Like they're good at getting men on the base, and then just put those guys in scoring position. And if the pitching holds, you can go very, very far in this tournament.
Absolutely, absolutely, and that's the thing I think that's defined OU this entire run is. The entire way through, they've just been unshaken, unflappable. They've they've looked two pretty solid teams in the eye in Florida and Virginia Tech, and when things start to kind of roll in a bad way, they just are unfazed. They just keep doing their thing, and they've had it's really been defined by big win to start. Get humbled in the second game, and then all the momentum's on the other team's side, and then they withstand that and come back and win just really solid, gutsy performances. So hey, I think OU, has shown that poise. Obviously, it's different once you get to the big show, once you get to Omaha. And again, this is obviously a team that hasn't been there. First time since 2010. We were freshmen in high school, for God's sake. So it's been a long time since OU's made a run like this. But until now, I hadn't seen them flinch once. So if they can maintain that and just keep doing what they, like you said, they keep doing what they do, keep stealing, keep being the cheeky bastards that they are. I don't know. I think this OU team's pretty magical. So that's enough of that regional. I want to kind of regional. I need to get my terminology right. Let's look at the other bracket over here. I'm gonna pull it up real quick. So Stanford, Auburn, Arkansas, Ole Miss. I don't want to talk too much about them because let's be honest, this is a mostly OU pod, so we won't see a ton of them, and if we're lucky, we'll see one of them. But of these four, who would you say is like? Let's start with the dark horse. So obviously not Stanford. So of Auburn, Ole Miss, Arkansas, the SEC teams, which do you think has the chance of wiggling their way out and headed to that final series?
I'm just going to go with the pure heat here. There's really no stats to back it up because they honestly had a very disappointing season, but Ole Miss is hot right now, and it's kind of been overshadowed because I think like your OUs and your Notre Dames, who beat very high quality opponents in the super regionals, like they got more of the press, which is understandable because they beat significantly better opponents. But Southern Miss is a really good pitching team, and Ole Miss just came into their house, and I know it's in the same state, but whooped one of the best pitching staffs in America, and just dominated them and swept them. And they're really a fun team. They had really high expectations coming in the season. I know they were a top 10, if not a top 5 rated team coming into this season. So, like, I'm just a little scared about that. Ole Miss fans are going to travel well. But it's great to see in this that, like, Arkansas and Auburn, like some of those SEC schools, they're together as well. And those will be interesting games, at least to watch, just because it's like they're all so familiar with one another. Like, we get a little bit of that maybe with OU and Texas, but we're definitely going to see some familiarity there, just considering how good Stanford is.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's the thing for me overall. The vibes in Omaha are about to be absolutely immaculate. Just in general. And I know it hurts you as a defender of the Shield, a Big 12 connoisseur, to see 6 of the future SEC teams in the College World Series, which has to be annoying. But just in general, putting OU, Texas A&M, and Arkansas into one place for one sporting event together is the most toxic situation ever, and I love it.
Yeah, Omaha is gonna be a contentious vibe, at least for the first week while all those fan bases are there, because there's a lot of bad blood, like a lot of bad blood running through a lot of these fan bases, and like kind of just like poor Stanford. I just feel like they're just kind of like the odd ones out. Like nobody like. I was looking at the field, and you're like, I'm obviously looking for the team that it's like I want to cheer for. That's like not one of my direct rivals, but I'm like, do I really want to like root for like Stanford? And like nobody's gonna hate Stanford, but nobody's gonna love them. But like everyone else, there's like just something to hate about them. But that's what's gonna make it great. Like I think we're gonna get some great fan shots. We're gonna get some great, probably ones you don't see on TV, more on Twitter, some fan interactions. But no, I think this field, honestly, like even though it's a lot of teams that I hate, you hate them for a reason because they're good national brands and like fun teams to watch, and so this is going to be an amazing tournament.
Yeah, and I mean throw Auburn and Ole Miss in there too, and those aren't any slouch fan base wise either. They're, I mean, just Ole Miss for me, I think sets the standard for me in terms of like outfield celebrations, in terms of the beer showers out on that berm, like. That's a really good baseball fan base. I think that's going to be cool. And then Auburn's Auburn. It's an SEC. They poison. Well, they had a tree poisoned. They were not the poisoners of the tree, but were involved in a tree poisoning, which for me automatically sets you up as a cool fan base.
Agreed, agreed. It's going to be a great tournament. I highly suggest everybody watch. We got some. It's going to be, if you're not a fan of baseball in general, because you're probably thinking of like MLB and just how that works, college baseball is a totally different animal. It has that college basketball feel that you can be up by 8 runs and not safe whatsoever. These teams don't have, even the best bullpens aren't the best bullpens. Like, you can't keep yourself in games the entire time. So I highly suggest people just watch it. I know everybody's going to be watching OU, but if you have some free time, check out some of the other games.
All right, yeah, I'm all in on that. I'm gonna have my eye on the whole series across the board. That's just a fun thing to kind of have on in the background of your when you're at work. We don't recommend it, but hey, maybe we might we're just suggesting it. But anyways, Blake, so I want to hear, who is your final, and who do you have on top? We have heard hints and everything, but your prediction.
I think it's going to be Texas Ole Miss in the final, and I think Texas is going to go on top. I love the fact that they play in a big ballpark. Omaha's a big ballpark. I just feel like they're born kind of for this tournament, sadly. So I think, sadly, Texas is going to win, but have the Ole Miss with the upset over Stanford in the finals.
Nice. I like that. I'm going to go. And keep in mind, I'm obviously biased. I'm going to go with the matchup I want to see the most, and that's going to be OU Arkansas. No mashed potatoes are going to be safe when the Hogs get rolling. And I got hey, Sooners in 2. They're going to sweep the whole College World Series. I feel like that's just completely a modest way to look at this. So I got the Sooners, just Sooners in 5. They're just cruise right on. That's reasonable to think. So
very reasonable.
No, for real though, I think OU does have a really good chance at getting through. Will it happen? I don't know. I feel like those 4 teams are really, really even. If we're going to be realistic, it's probably going to be Texas, but I hate it. But you never know. I think OU being there as a team who, knows them well, who's played against them, experience is a double-edged sword. My optimism is going to trend towards, I hope that ends up doing a good thing, but also UT might be out for revenge, and that could get really, really, really ugly. So we'll see. But for now, it's OU, Arkansas, but the real loser of all will be the mashed potatoes, if you know what I mean. But anyways, Blake, thank you so much for hopping on. It's always fun talking baseball. First time we've ever really done this on the pod, so for sure, good times.
Yeah, great talking with you. It's gonna be a fun week or so, and right around the corner, college football starting soon.
Oh, it's coming up. College football preview season is this is the last domino before we really dive in and get into all that. So I'm looking forward to doing some conference previews and all sorts of good stuff. So the college football content this year is going to be awesome. I can't wait.
Incredible. It's going to be incredible.
Absolutely. Well, Blake, I'm ready to watch the Sooners drop all the jumbo dongs, sending that out all just all over the place. I need some dingers. I need some elite pitching performances. And after this pod, I feel pretty good. I feel more enlightened, and I hope y'all did too. So thank you so much for listening, everyone. I hope this helps your viewing experience of the College World Series as much as it will help mine. So for me and Boatin Blake, this has been the Schooner Pod College World Series preview. We'll catch you soon, hopefully celebrating an OU national championship. We'll see. I don't know. We've been doing that a lot recently, but doesn't get old. So until then, we'll see y'all later. Have a good one. Boomer Sooner. Beat A&M.